I'm always very happy to talk about research and extension in the beef world, and I'm happy to have this opportunity. I'm going to primarily focus on what research and extension activities ABP has been involved with, but you'll notice throughout my presentation that there is a lot around coordination and collaboration because that's how the research world works. So research is expensive, it's incremental, and it's long-term. For an example, a well-designed multi-year grazing trial, or really any project with animal work, can easily run upwards of $400,000. And results are incremental, so it takes many, many projects before the results are robust enough to actually take and implement on farm. So the projects we invest in now are actually paying off for beef producers down the road, and potentially years down the road. Currently, we are strategizing, and if we look at the Canadian Beef Research and Technology Transfer Strategy, as the largest beef producing province in Canada, it's very, very difficult to have an outcome from this strategy that does not apply to Alberta. Now, that doesn't mean there may not be something we want to focus on specifically for Alberta, but to move the entire beef industry forward, pretty much Alberta has to be on board. And if you haven't yet been able to fill out the survey, we are updating the National Beef Strategy. I know a number of you have participated in focus groups already, but this is a chance for everyone to provide input into what our priorities should be for the next 5 years in preparation for the next science cluster. And the survey does close tomorrow, so if you haven't filled it out, you've just got one more day. So our internal budget is small, and I know that our fiscal situation has been mentioned a few times already today. Generally speaking, we have about $75,000 to work with in internal money to fund projects. For a little bit of perspective, the year before the refundable checkoff took effect, ABP's research budget was $800,000. Our neighbors, Saskatchewan, SCA's research budget is $500,000 a year. And so with our small internal budget, it really underscores the need for ABP to work with partners and other funders. So we look and we try really hard to maximize our investment by finding those partners. So we've been really, really fortunate over the last few years to find some of these partnership opportunities. And I think these partnership opportunities have come about for a couple of different reasons. One, I think governments have recognized our own budgetary constraints, but I think more importantly, they see value in our projects being evaluated by producers and recognize that our review process is very comprehensive and very robust. I think it is probably safe to say that we can't bank on these types of opportunities in the future, which means we're going to have to be quite strategic in how we approach research funding in the future with such a small internal budget. So we're constantly working with other funders, whether that's reviewing projects for them to see whether they meet with our priorities, whether we think they're a good idea, if we see areas where they could work with other researchers. This also means sometimes we try and work out some co-funding agreements. As Brad mentioned earlier this morning, some of the major partners have been the Beef Cattle Research Council, Results Driven Agriculture Research, Saskatchewan Cattlemen's Association, Milk, Barley, the Agriculture Development Fund, and there's several others that we work with on a regular basis. And I just want to underscore here that our decisions on what research projects to fund are made by producers. We do get technical input, peer reviews, staff input, input from other technical experts, but at the end of the day, the decisions on what we fund are made by producers for producers. And we're always looking to leverage our dollars, especially with a small internal budget. We want to see a good return on our investment, and we want to pry out those government dollars by showing faith in a project by putting in a little bit of industry money. So over the past 5 years, every dollar invested by ABP in research has been matched by over $9.75 from other funders. Now, this is over the entire portfolio of projects over the past 5 years, and this leverage ratio can actually vary quite a bit depending on what program area or what project we're talking about. We've had leverage ratios approach 40 to 1, which is crazy, crazy. Right now we have 32 active or upcoming projects. And here I've just broken them down in a couple of ways. The chart on the right shows our active projects by dollar investment, and it's a little bit skewed at the moment, primarily due to the focus on feed and forage with the Alberta agriculture money that we're currently allocating. The chart on the left shows the number of projects in each area, which is dominated by animal health. This is partially about research capacity. We have a really good team of animal health researchers that work in that field, where we have, I'd say, relatively fewer researchers that work in forage and feed at the moment. But it's also because we've been making smaller investments over more projects with our internal budget, because we knew that we had money from Alberta Agriculture and Forestry and the Canadian Agriculture Partnership Program to invest in feed and forage areas. So we're trying to kind of spread out our money as much as possible. You might notice here that there are some areas that are underrepresented. I want to point out that animal health includes welfare, forage includes environment, feed includes feed grains as well as feed efficiency, which can also include some genetics work. But you don't see food safety or beef quality in these active projects. That doesn't mean we've never funded projects in that area. It's just that traditionally our research committee recognizes that they're important areas, but they try to tend to focus on program areas that have more of a direct impact at the farm gate level. And I think this really speaks to the importance of understanding what other funders are doing so that we're not under or over investing in a particular area as we look at the whole landscape of beef research in Canada and in our province. So if, for example, BCRC has some specific work going on in food safety, probably we don't need to focus in that same area at the same time. So I obviously don't have enough time to talk about all of 32 projects in detail, as much as I would love to do so, but these are kind of the broad topic areas that we're looking at. And it's everything from breeding new types of forage and feed grains to surveillance for animal diseases, to looking at the gut and lung microbiome, improving our diagnostics and testing strategies, looking at alternatives to antimicrobials, antimicrobial resistance and use, epigenetics. And I think we really try to focus on finding the right teams for the right projects. In some instances, it might be better to fund research out of the University of Guelph if they have the right team to get us the results that we're looking for. And by results that we're looking for, I mean answering the question. Sometimes we don't like the answers we get, but we need the question to be answered. So now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about extension and adoption, because it's not enough just to have a research.
Can I interrupt for a second, please?
Yeah.
Your screen, I'm just getting in, your screen hasn't moved here for the last little bit. It's still stuck on the maximizing investment screen.
Really? Okay. Maybe I will just stop and reshare. Thank you, Howard.
No.
Because it's moving on my end. So you should see something that says encouraging adoption.
It's just starting, still black yet. Just seeing a black that you're starting to share your screen.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Of course, this would happen to me after all my practicing. Oh, I bet it's this. Hold on.
There we go. Encouraging adoption.
Encouraging adoption. Perfect.
That's
and you can't see my special notes?
Nope, it's all good.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. So I'm not sure what you guys missed, but we're going to talk about adoption now. We need our results to reach the folks who need the information the most, and that's you guys as beef producers, right? And so there's generally 5 stages of an adoption curve, and it starts out with awareness and interest in a topic. Then, you might get some evaluation, and you might even trial it out on your place before you actually adopt a new practice technology. And I will say here that measuring the success of extension efforts is really, really hard. Um, there's no real good feedback mechanism to judge adoption rates, though we do have some tools like producer surveys, and a number of those surveys were put together by the Beef Cattle Research Council in their adoption rates report that can highlight where we should be putting more effort. But there isn't a great feedback mechanism to really know what's working, how producers would like to consume information, and what works to kind of tweak their interest to get them to adopt something. So we have a number of extension tools that we use. We have tended to focus in the past a lot on fact sheets, and they're available for all of the projects we support. And I think it's been a very tried and tested tool, but we realize that that type of information needs to be supported by other means of getting information out. So we also write articles. That's again in that awareness and interest piece. We facilitate information sharing, direct folks to resources that already exist, or consolidate information from several sources. And a really great example of that is that we help to facilitate the transition of information that was hosted on foragebeef.ca to beefresearch.ca. And another project that doesn't quite fit in any of my special boxes is we've been working on what we call the Rancher Researcher Project. So it's about connecting producers more closely with the research community. It's about getting some of those case studies, incentivizing adoption, giving them some of that one-on-one support. And that project is actually undergoing an expansion right now with the Applied Research Associations across the province. And they're putting together some videos on some of the things that people have adopted in their experiences with them to try and get that peer-to-peer knowledge transfer happening, which is a very effective way to do so, but it's also very time consuming. We've also explored working on some interactive tools, and that's where I'm going to focus for the rest of my time, showing some of the interactive tools that we've been involved in developing over the years. So the first one I want to highlight is the body condition scoring tool. So I'm not sure, I don't think you can see my pointer, maybe you can, but you can slide the little slider and make the cow fatter or make the cow skinnier. And as you do so, all of these values on the right-hand side, pregnancy rate, postpartum interval, etc., will change depending on what the body condition score is. And then you can also calculate a value of weaned calves for a certain body condition score. There's also a scenario development where you can try and roughly calculate the costs that it would take to improve body condition score over a set amount of time to see if you might be actually better off culling that cow rather than trying to put condition on her, depending on how close you might be to calving. This other one, I like to call it the report card for your feed test, and you guys have, most of you have probably heard me talk about this one before, but essentially it came about because we talked to folks who would get their feed tested and then just put the feed test in the drawer and never look at it or do anything with it. So we wondered if there was an easy way to kind of analyze those feed test results. So this doesn't do ration balancing. It's not intended to replace cow bites or a proper nutritionist. It is really just a quick and dirty look to see if your feed test results will meet the requirements of the cattle you intend to feed a certain feed stuff to. Red is bad, green is good, yellow you keep an eye on. That tool also has the ability to calculate some economics around the quality of feed. So if you're looking at the quality, purchasing some feed in, you're looking at the quality of that feed and what that is worth on a dollar basis for energy and protein, rather than just buying by the bale. The next one is Forage UPick. This is one of the newer tools. It's for species selection for forages, right now limited to Western Canada, but likely expanding to the Eastern Canada very shortly. You can pick your soil zone, and then what it will do is actually let you pick some field characteristics. So it works best if you pick 1 to 3 of those field characteristics that are the most important to you. And then it'll give you some results of forages that are well suited to your environment and those characteristics that you've chosen. It also includes a seeding rate and cost calculator, as well as some basic information on weed identification and management in specific soil zones and provinces. Some upcoming extension tools that we're pretty excited about are pasture school modules. Some of you might remember in-person pasture schools where you'd come back with a binder that was the size of a wagon. This is really the Coles Notes of that. And while the foragebeef.ch information transition provides a lot of the why, these pasture school modules will provide a bit more of the how and how you might implement some of those practices and theories. We're also supporting data analysis for CanFax's cost of production network. If you're interested in participating in that, the focus group sign up reopens in August, and you can go to canfax.ca to learn more. And we're working with the BCRC on some collaboration with veterinarians and seeing what tools and resources they feel would be best suited that they could share with their clients, because we know that veterinarians are one of the top sources of information for producers. So how can we get some of that information and help vets, help us, help producers? And with that, I ran through that real quick, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulty in the middle, but I will take any questions. Howard's muted.
Howard is muted. Sorry about that. Any questions for Karen? Oh, Colin, go ahead. I see your hand up.
I'm getting a little tired of talking here, but I guess you're all going to have to listen to me. I was wondering if Karen can and Brad can have that put up on our website.
Certainly.
Perfect.
Good. Thank you, Colin.
I'll have to make some adjustments to the slide transitions, but that's easy.
Sheila?
I guess I would rather, or as important, put it on the ABP Daily. That would be nice, right?
Yeah, and there are plans in place, right? When new fact sheets get updated and things like that, to integrate them with ABP Daily as well. So when we have those little short blurbs about what a research project is about, those will show up there too at some point.
Yeah, some of those tools are awesome though. Good work.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Sheila. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Karen. Appreciate.
They let me off easy.
Yeah, the soft touch today.